a tidal wave of information that's coming at them. We need them to be critical thinkers for that alone, to be discerning. So Judy, here's what William Graham Sumner, in a very famous book, actually, he introduced the socio and ethnocentric idea of education in a book called Folkways. Criticism is the examination and test of propositions of any kind which are offered for acceptance. Notice it's offered, it's not pushed on you, in order to find out whether they correspond to reality or not. That was part of the Enlightenment idea. It is a prime condition of human welfare that men and women should be trained in it. It is our only guarantee against delusion, deception, superstition, and misapprehension of ourselves and our earthly circumstances. This is so powerful. It's the only safeguard against delusion and deception, which means there are people who are trying to deceive us. Right? Men educated in it cannot be stampeded. Don't know how true that is. Germany is a pretty good example. They are slow to believe. They can hold things as possible or probable in all degrees without certainty and without pain. They can wait for evidence and weigh evidence. They can resist appeals to their dearest prejudices. Education in the critical faculty is the only education of which it can be truly said that it makes good citizens. So that idea is developed by John Dewey, and a whole generation of educational scholars follow it, but are we achieving it? This is really hard to ascertain. I would point out is that you might now understand why the Foundation for Critical Thinking started in 1980. We all remember what happened in 1980. It was the Reagan Revolution on the wave of the moral majority and an evangelical surge on the national scene. Whoa, we need a foundation for critical thinking. We need a thinking community, and we need to develop educational tools to offset that. Okay? So that would be the last thing I would add is I think solving problems of the Jewish community and the Jewish people also need critical thinking. Because it's a large area for critical thinking, collecting data and interpreting it. We're trained in graduate school to say the plural of anecdote is not data. I want that to sink in. The plural of anecdote is not data. Just because I know 3 people who after high school are no longer religious, that doesn't mean that this is a failing model. I need to collect data. I need to collect who are those students, what did they go through, what was their home life. Before I condemn the system, that doesn't mean I don't want to critique the system, but I have to collect the evidence and I have to know how to interpret it. And that doesn't mean it's easy or it's going to be strictly scientific. We want to critique current practices. Could it be better? We always talk about the ongoing learner, but there's an element of can we critique it? And you need critical thinking skills for that, and of course creative solutions. But I'm going to run through some things, and I apologize because it's so late, but there's current research that undermines a lot of this as well. Just 2 examples. These were very famous books in the 1980s. Philosophy and the Mirror of Nature by Richard Rorty challenged the Enlightenment model that it's all based on rationality, and that rationality and reason can build up a foundation for all knowledge. It's a very serious book that challenges that. And then subsequently, one of my intellectual heroes, Alasdair MacIntyre, he was an atheist who became a Roman Catholic, went back to it. Whose justice, which rationality? Acknowledging that there are multiple rationalities. Right? Western being one of them. Now that doesn't mean the Native Americans, whatever, but his argument is, this is part of the humility, we have to use critical thinking, but understand that all critical thinking has to happen where? In a context. There's no such thing as radical doubt. There are always assumptions, there are always givens, and the rationality is context specific. What might be a rational argument in one setting doesn't compel in another. At Emory, we've just agreed to launch this program to have all undergraduates learn about evidence. I was at a meeting of chairs of departments and witnessed an argument between the chemistry chair and the comp lit chair, who said, "We don't have evidence," said the comp lit person. Chemistry, you have chemistry. You can do experiments. You can prove things. You have replicability, and that's part of your business. But we analyze literature. There's no such thing, they said, as evidence in the way you mean it. There's no such thing as proofs. It's an amazing thing that's going on in the theory. So that's the context specificity. There's different criteria for different fields, and all critique takes place within a set of assumptions, and that's important to acknowledge. The last thing is there are new measures of successful education. It's always been evolving. It's not new. We're kind of living through it. The belief in the whole child, not just job skills and intellect, but the total child, we see that a lot. Adaptability, if you ever watched Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk on education, it's the most often watched TED Talk of all of them, and he focuses on adaptability. We have to teach, he loves this one, he says, okay, realize that the student who came into our system in 1994 would graduate the year that Facebook came onto the scene. Right? There was no notion of a Web 2.0. There was no social media. Their world is upside. So to teach them that, but you have to learn arithmetic the way we've been teaching it for the last 100 years. So his belief is adaptability. Teach them how to learn a new field, because no one's going to be in a career for the rest of their lives. Likely to be, I shouldn't say nobody, most people will not be. They're going to have to be, they're going to move, they're going to be in a new technological environment, etc. Daniel Pink, A Whole New Mind. He believes that we've come to the sort of the dead end of the left brain. For those of us who are rational and systematic, the right brain people are going to take over the world in terms of design, in terms of creativity, and those are the skills of the 21st century. This is a book by Carol Dweck called Mindset, the Growth Mindset versus the Fixed Mindset, how to deal with failure, how to deal with learning from setbacks. That's going to be the key. And I didn't bring the book, but Grit and Resilience, which is also the work of Paul, somebody I forgot the name. My point here is that schools, again, are being asked to do a lot. And if successful adulthood is still our goal, then there are many new measures of successful adulthood. I had to end with, of course, a day school website. The Jewish Community Day School of Boston, on its philosophy, under academic excellence, JCDS's course of study is rigorous and intentional, right? Self-directed, yet flexible and personalized. So you can, academic excellence is built on strong skills, citizenship, and Jewish literacy set in a nurturing and relaxed atmosphere. What are the 21st century skills? Creativity and innovation, number one. Collaboration, number two. Critical thinking has moved down to third. Communication and flexibility. And this is not alphabetic, okay? So it's alphabetic because creativity comes, and collaboration, whatever. So I just find it's fascinating that people are starting to say, critical thinking got us very, very far in the West, but where's it going to take us now? And as much as I respect the Foundation for Critical Thinking, we now understand that human beings, to have the full flourishing, are much more complex. Society is more complex. The new world is much more complex. It's going to require many more tools than just critical thinking. So that's my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity. I realize it's already 11:30. I have to defer to my hosts. I know there's delicious stuff waiting for you on the back table, but do we want to take, people are free to go. It's 11:30, but I will take a few questions if people have them. I'll take them. Go for it.
Okay. Thank you for speaking to us today. You're incredible.